We're going to ask Commissioner Strickland if he'll lead us in prayer and lead us with the pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
That's right. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. We ask you to be with the people out of the Midwest who've gone through hard times with the weather. We know that you have for everything that you have a master plan for all of us. We ask that you be with us at our work session tonight and be with the citizens of Franklin County. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to items on the agenda. I'd like to open it up if we've got anybody present from the public that would like to make some comments to the commission, please. Mr. Rudden.
I'm Randall Gator. I'm the Recreation Director in Franklin County. I've got a little issue with our insurance. I had the misfortune of going in the hospital on December the 31st at like 10 o'clock, and I was not drinking. Okay? To make it short, I fell out, went to the movies, I fell out, come back out, hit the ground, busted my head, and they had to take me to the hospital. I stayed in the hospital till January the 2nd, okay? And I'm going to be charged with 2 deductibles just because of time on this thing. And, you know, for a family, if you had a family and you had a wreck on that day, they're going to get double charged, every one of them. And instead of it being $1,250 deductible, it's $2,500 deductible that I'm going to end up having to pay.
Appreciate that.
If you'll give me a call, may I?
We will get to you
Okay.
On the insurance program. You might want to address issues like that when you get down to you on the report on the
Okay,
insurance.
that's fine.
Thank you, Pat. Any other comments? Let's move into our agenda here with asks our county manager. Ms. Phillips, what's the report on the bid, please?
Yes, sir. As you know, we received bids on 2014 LMIG double surface treatment resurfacing. This is almost 12.5 miles of 6 county roads. As you can see, we received 3 bids. The low bid was by Stratton & Sons Construction in the amount of $462,881. Again, this is an LMIG project, so we'll receive 70% of the funding, or around $324,000 through the Georgia Department of Transportation. If you'd like to move forward with this project, I'd recommend that we award it to Stratton & Sons Construction at our regular meeting in May.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any commissioners have any questions about the bids that came in on the double resurfacing treatment of 6 roads?
John, for clarification, could you just identify the roads, please?
I'll be glad.
If you have that information.
I do. I'll be glad to. It's actually Shirley Road, Cromer's Bridge Road, Farmers Academy Road, Greater Hope Road, Pleasant Hill Road from around not quite to State Route 17, where the 17 project ended, to just past Deer Run Trail, and the rest of that, if you recall, was resurfaced in a recent project. So we're just finishing up that roadway, and then all of Brays Lake Road.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Let's move to the request here from the Board of Education to relocate the contract force. Mr. Phillips?
Yes, sir. As you all know, the Franklin County School System has requested that the county consider allowing them to relocate a stormwater detention pond from their property directly in front of the Franklin County High School onto Franklin County's property across State Route 195. I'm sure you've all been by and you realize that the location of the pond really detracts from the appearance of the school, particularly with all the improvements that have been made. They would like to get that pond away from the front of the school to allow it to be more visible and also possibly provide more parking for the school system. So all they're asking at this point is really if the county would be willing to consider their request, then they would do some more evaluation as far as cost and practicality as to if they could actually relocate the pond to Franklin County property.
All right. Gentlemen, any questions about the request that we have from the Board of Education?
The only thing is just basically just with the request, and once they would come back and let us know it wouldn't be a.
Right, what I would suggest is if you would like to allow them to look into the possibility,
Right.
Make that contingent upon we get the final approval as far as the plans, location, everything of the pond.
Right.
Right.
That's what I would say.
I'd be glad to work with them, and consider it. Just want to make sure we wouldn't do anything that would be detrimental to our long-range planning on that
Exactly.
property.
Exactly.
That sounds good. Any other questions, gentlemen?
How many acres is over there? Is that what goes up back behind the bus and all that? How many acres is right over here?
40 something. if I'm not
Yeah, I don't
mistaken.
remember the exact number, but it is around 40 some odd acres.
Part of it's been deeded to the fire department.
That's right, we have the
Their
fire
utilization
training
for
center
the Training center.
there. And, but the, the pond itself, as far as the pond that the school system has now, is probably no more than 1 acre in size.
Any other questions? All right, we're ready to take action on that regular meeting coming up Monday night. Now, let me turn it over to Pat Rice.
Thank you, sir.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Plan is doing well.
Plan doing good.
We are at 66% of expected claims, which means we should finish the year in the black. And you'll remember there's a portion that goes to fixed costs and then claims costs. And that's the portion that we are in the black on. The fixed costs are going to be what they are. The claims, given the demographics of the group, we're profitable. The only concern, most groups of this size, you see $1 of prescriptions for every $3 or every $4 of medical. And it's every $1 of drugs to $2 of medical claims. So high drug usage. And there's some mitigating circumstances in that, HIPAA, all those other things, we can't really get into it, but there are some high drug costs. We're in the pre-renewal process now. Went out to bid today, actually. The request for proposals. Talked a little bit to John, Lane, David, any modifications to the plan. If there's anything we want to do differently, we need to let the folks know now that that's something we'd like to explore, as well as looking at some of the municipalities that we talked to last year after they've had a year of unnerving from the Affordable Care Act, if they're more interested in joining us again in the coming year.
Would you
Touch
like
on
to-
Randall's question, if you would.
Well, I think it should be continuous care. There shouldn't be 2 deductibles.
That's what I said.
I will give you my phone number. Call me tomorrow. Need your social security number, all that good stuff. And we may need a HIPAA release to be able to talk to them, but you should have said, check me out before, but I understand. We'll work through that process. The deductible piece, as we discussed earlier, is because of the qualified high deductible plan. And we had no other options. That was our one plan. Qualified high deductible, meaning there's a health savings account that was at one point tied to that. So if you have an HSA, the deductible has to run that way. And there is no deductible carryover. So you have no ability to say at the end of the year, if you've paid something within the last quarter, you carry over into that next year. That's precluded under the Affordable Care Act with a health savings account. And I know Jeff, I shake my head all the time, I'm saying, acronyms and everything else, I don't always understand. But that's the long and short of it.
But we don't have that high deductible in our plan.
Yes,
What
you
I
do.
mean.
Yeah.
If the health savings account is there, none of the employees are aware of it, you know.
Well, there was only 3, if I'm not mistaken. One of them was Biddy, who was in there, and I think there might have been, was it 1 or 2 others that actually were in that. Really, there wasn't a lot of, say, the main employees out there, the body of it. didn't take, they just took basically only they took county what they gave them because they didn't want to pay anything. And on the other plan, they had a $2,000 deductible with a 20% co-insurance with a $500 per admission, which means that on the other plan, you've been sitting there with $4,500 out of pocket versus $1,250. That's a huge savings to the county.
I'm really
Employees.
confused. How are the employees supposed to know this? What we've got? We don't.
Well, you have a card that basically tells you have a $1,250 deductible.
Yeah,
And if you got any
I
questions, all you
understand
have to do is ask.
I understand that, but we don't, nobody knows we've got a high deductible anymore.
Well, the meetings that we had, there's a little dust up in a couple of them, but on the back of the card, there's an 800 number. Call and ask the questions. And I gave my number and contact information.
Mr. Rising, I was on that,
Come on up, Mr. White.
Yeah.
thank you, sir. I was on the insurance committee, and we had several meetings. You never disclosed to us that deductible started over with the beginning of a new year. It was never mentioned.
If you say I didn't, I didn't. But as I've said on a number of phone conversations, yeah, I'm more than willing to stand up for what I said. But a qualified high deductible plan, Billy was aware of it, the commission was aware of it.
Were you guys aware that the deductible started over in January?
Absolutely not.
No.
Oh, December
To the contrary.
24th.
Yes.
To the contrary.
David?
Well, all I can say is I can't recall right off the top of my head telling you that, but I just know that I went into the doctor's office on December the 30th, and I'm going like, I sure do hate having to go right here because I know I'm going to have to pay again come January.
And I'm not trying to put David under the bus, but he works in the industry, so he understands. But that was laid out. If it was not communicated fairly, that's my fault.
It was not
Most
communicated
deductibles
to
are
any employee.
annualized.
Most deductibles are annualized.
What did you say?
That was not communicated to
No,
any of the
it was
employees.
not. It was definitely not. It caught everybody off by surprise from our county clerk on down. And I would like to know, Randall, if you've talked to anybody from the insurance about you being charged 2 deductibles.
Yeah, Don,
Fletcher,
yeah.
what'd you tell you?
I actually had to call her back because they had me charged with actually $2,940-something, and I said, why am I gonna have to pay these 4 doctors? And she said, well, you shouldn't. I said, I understand that, so why am I having to? And she said, I'll take care of it. So, as far as, you know,
But
the insurance is paying, I ain't got no problem with that. My only problem is getting charged 2 deductibles, and, you know, if, that's luck of the draw when you get sick. I couldn't help when I was gonna pass out or nothing like that, you know, so, and my other concern is not, okay, let's say you've got an employee out there, and I know we call this, what is it, self-insured?
Partially.
Okay, but the problem I've got with it is a lot of employees will go ahead and pay this. And I know that's their fault, you know, but we need somebody, wherever, whoever, we need somebody to help some of these people out with their insurance. If I hadn't have been so persistent and just been on top of it, me and my wife, and you know, I made some contact with some of you guys, and y'all helped me out some too, but I'm just concerned that not everybody's going to get a fair shake on this thing.
Well, I think it's been kind of a confusing mess up from day one. It's not right that the deductible starts on January 1st. Number one, you had a 6-month time period with a deductible, then you started over in January. And now, if we ever change, the employees are going to be messed up because we change in mid-year, and so the deductible should have ran from July to June. Is that not a better way of doing things, Mr. Rice?
So it's rising, but it goes with the
Rising.
Affordable Care Act, which is the federal legislation.
So we could not have, now, see, I wasn't told that. I was told that we had the choice, this was after the fact, that we could have started the deductible in July, or we could have started it from January to December.
You get 1 year, and then it's gonna run the calendar year. It would need to go January to December. So,
No matter when you start an insurance policy, now, you're sure of that?
well, I can only refer to you what I was given by the third-party administrator. So,
Well, then why, from my understanding, you told our county clerk, Ms. Hilly, at the time, that when we wrote this policy, we could have wrote it from July to July, or from January to January, or from January to December.
which county clerk?
Miss Hilly, she's no longer with us.
Elaine and Billy are who I've dealt with from the start. I don't know who she is.
And I think you've also told me that we could have done the plan either way.
Well, let's look at it this way. We knew it was gonna be a July to January 1. So what's the difference? Because
I don't think anybody did. I know I did. Sure.
the plan, we knew that if you were gonna make the change to the calendar year versus your fiscal year, there was gonna be a short gap coverage somewhere in that plan, either this year or next year, somewhere along the line. Once you changed coverages, we couldn't say, well, we're gonna do this on a calendar year basis, so what are you gonna do from July to January? That was the option. And that was how it moved through that process. I'm sorry Billy's not here to answer some of the questions.
Right.
But again, I'm a big boy, I'll take whatever comes. So that's the process. And partially self-funded isn't anything new. But if you're not familiar with it, it really doesn't matter. It is new. But the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, has put a kink, a wrinkle in everything that we do from a health insurance perspective.
So just for the record, every insurance company must go with their deductible from January to December.
I can't say every.
Wait a minute now. You said that was in Obamacare.
Well, there are different plan sizes, so I'm not going to tell you every. I'll get you an answer, but I'm not going to give you a blanket statement.
Well, I think you're telling me in this plan, let me rephrase the question. In this plan, it is impossible for us to go from July to June with a deductible.
I'm not telling you it's impossible. I'm telling you I was told by the third-party administrator that that's the way it needed to go. And through an ERISA attorney. So that's who I'm going to listen to.
Well, may I ask this question, because to me, this is even a more important question in my mind, is you're out for bid now,
Correct.
and if we stay the same, then obviously there's no problem. But if we need to change insurance at this fiscal year, what do we do?
John, if y'all go back to fully insured, and you say we don't want, sorry, you go back to fully insured, we don't want a health savings account, you can set your deductible, you can set it with the carryover, you can do whatever you want to do. The key point that I think you're missing here is we put this down to one plan that was a health savings account. That health savings account changed the game for everybody. Even though you had 3 employees on it, it changed it for everybody. Set the parameters at a different level. That's where the difference is.
And I think also one of the problems was probably 85% of the people on the committee were basically negative toward it. So then when we were looking at a $2,500 deductible, and then when Ty Cobb came in and says, well, if you'll come here, we'll do $1,250. So then basically that was going to make it complicated for people.
More complicated.
More complicated. So that's when basically it came down to just $1,250. And the thing is with that, It's like before, they talked about what the employees in the county make. Now they're paying, instead of $4,500 out of pocket if they have to go, $1,250 out of pocket if they go. What would you prefer to pay as an employee if you had to go? $1,250 or $4,500?
Well, and the only thing I'm trying to get to is I agree, I don't think it's fair to our employees to not know that they were dealing with a 6-month deductible period.
Those two,
I don't
What
think-
I'm trying to do
it's
is
fair
make
to have a
certain.
6-month deductible if they knew or if they didn't.
Well,
I mean,
I
you know, if
can
we're gonna
agree
have a
with that
6-month
too.
deductible, we should have cut the deductible in half.
But is it, and I'm still a little unclear, is it the health savings account or is it the partially self-insured portion or both?
health savings account. The partially self-funded, you could build 16 different plans.
Okay.
Okay, we got a question in the back, here.
I was there for the first visit with the insurance as it was. The thing that I noted, and I talked to Elaine about it, and I guess we were shorthanded that day. There was no one down there at the sign-up representing the county whatsoever. We had no one there, county manager, person that handles our insurance. We were just put in there, and there was a lot of questions, and it caused what was called the dust-up, because we wanted to know, and we asked for information. And we were told, this is what you get, this is what it's going to be, go on, do what you have to do. And that's the way it was left. That's what we were faced with.
So
And
you
it
say,
was, I'm on the committee with the insurance, and it wasn't the fact that we were negative. I thought it was a good idea, just that we needed to answer all the questions. We had more questions that we were able to get the answers for, and what happened was what we were afraid was gonna happen, that the employees were gonna get taken advantage of.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
You were on the committee, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you know that the first deductible was gonna run from July to January?
Mr. Commissioner, I have a lot of folks down there at the sheriff's office that ask me, because we try to stay on top of the insurance. We had a fellow that was facing knee surgery, and he asked a question about the deductible. And I called Elaine. And even Elaine at that point thought, well, yes, it's going to carry over. And we did not find out until it was after the fact, said, well, you're just down another $2,500. We just didn't get all the answers to the question.
The documents that I saw stated everything in the context of annualized that didn't happen.
That is
The
correct.
formal official documents that we signed, and I do want to state that, we did review that, but moving forward, if we choose to continue with this type of coverage, what can you do to ensure that our county employees every year are notified about updates or changes to the policies well in advance of the new, what I call fiscal and or calendar year, however you want to coin it, with the Unaffordable Disaster Health Care Act and all the changes that are being forced down in counties, cities, and other governmental entities. I mean, we need to know in advance so we can weigh and factor that into our decision. Will your group assist us with an annual information rollout so we can make an informed decision?
Well, you get a copy of the summary plan description every year. And that's a 1-2-page description that says what the deductible is, what the network is, and everything that's pertinent to that.
I understand that. We want, with what we're paying, because we're paying a percentage, we want more support.
I'm not sure how much more support's there. There's an 800 number that's available to call, talk to claims.
But I'm talking about prior to entering in to a new year. With the changes that have been made, yes, I understand about the aspect of, yes, we have our cards, we have all the detailed information, that's during the planned year, but I'm talking about as the new year approaches, when we're making a decision on if we want to continue, so we'll know what changes, our employees will know what changes. what service can you provide us as far as rolling this information out to us so we can all make an educated and informed decision and know how the changes are going to impact us?
Well, happy to have the TPA that handles or adjudicates claims, a representative from them, meet with commissioners. I don't think you want them to meet with everybody.
No, I do. I want everybody in the county to have an opportunity. You know, if we had to set up something here at the rec department, have them be able to come in and ask questions. This is very important and serious to our people.
I can ask.
Okay.
I've been at this for 30 years. I've never had a TPA have one of their representatives at a
I've never had an insurance policy in my employment history where I didn't have an opportunity to go in and ask questions and have clarification on what changes and how they would impact myself and family.
No, let's see. Third-party administrator, people that adjudicate claims, they're going to be able to answer questions that you would normally have. We can have someone available to answer those questions, but have that third-party administrator is not going to do.
I mean, I'm not even saying it has to be a third party. I'm just asking if there's some support network who has a full and comprehensive understanding of existing policy and proposed changes and how it's going to impact our county, if we can have the opportunity to ask questions and have clarification provided to us on changes and how it's going to impact. That's all I'm asking.
I believe that's quite possible.
Okay.
And the thing is also, I think, basically, with anything starting out, sometimes you have quirks, but I believe right now the bugs are basically worked out of the system because, and as I think there were only maybe 6 people total who really had actually had their deductible, if I'm not mistaken, is the actual number that, and I'm sorry that happened for those 6 people. But in doing so with that, I would like, because I've told them, I said, if you got any questions, you can call my office, and I'll be glad. But I think the biggest thing is all the bugs now are really worked out, and everybody pretty much understands that it's January to December 31st.
And Mr. Strickland, that should have been communicated to us last year.
I hear what you're saying.
I think and I heard Mr. Rising say at the onset of his presentation that it was put out to bid for next year. Are we locked in to Mr. Rising? Because I think I'm speaking for the majority of the county employees. He has a credibility issue.
You're not locked into it.
Let me ask Mr. Ryder, got a question?
Yeah, and I'm sitting here looking at our policy, okay? Eligible charges under maximum benefit. You tell me if I'm reading this wrong. An eligible charge is considered to be incurred on the date a service is provided and not when the covered person is formally billed or pays for the service. All right, the definition of incurred means a covered expense is incurred on the date the service is rendered or the supply is obtained. So, are you saying I'm not gonna have to pay 2 deductibles?
I'm not saying anything.
See, this right here tells me I'm gonna have to pay 2 deductibles. It's what I'm reading right here.
Right, because you incurred it
In two different years, and that's one thing that
Well, do you see
needs to be
anything about,
changed on this
do
policy.
you see anything about continuation of coverage?
Nope.
Or continuation of treatment?
We should have been told that. Don't come in the middle of the year when my folks get started doing something and change the game plan. There's people in jail, that's called robbery, is what that is.
Well, but the thing about it is, if we change again, the employee's gonna be messed out for 6 more months.
Sure.
We have-
I can see that.
And I agree with Bobby, and I think we should, as a board, and I think we should look to change, I'll be honest with you.
Let me, if I can, Pat, let me ask you just one more question. Now, back to the health savings account.
Yes, sir.
I understand we had 3. None of those, if I understand correctly, are participating in that.
Right.
So does that allow us the option then, if we say, okay, we don't have anyone participating, we do away with that, then that resolves our issue, if I understand correctly?
Correct.
We can set that any way we want.
And for clarification, the HSA basically is just the placement of income tax-free into the account, provided that it's utilized towards medical expenses.
Qualified doctors. Correct.
Or your drugs, or dentist.
Sure. That's also qualified medical expenses, which could entail any.
Okay, so you've heard the concerns. We want to correct it. We'd like to make sure that we can't do anything what's already happened, but we need to make sure that we move forward and look at potential what's best for us, workers, employees. So,
Certainly have no issues with that.
okay, I appreciate that. Gary, one more.
Yeah, just, one other thing that come up with the insurance too was on dental. And we assumed that we were getting a really good deal because they had actually kicked it up to $1,200 that the insurance would pay per year from $1,000 from what we had before. But it turns out that we selected the non-preventative care policy. So that what that means is that they're taking, you don't get your 2 claims a year free. That comes out of the cost of that $1,200.
But that's a total different, you can't combine that with this, because that has nothing to do with this.
We're talking insurance.
No,
just
I'm
bringing
just,
that-
okay,
bringing
well,
that
I'm just clarifying, I'm trying to make it where we can understand, because that's totally different, because that's with Lincoln Financial, which is your dental plan.
Right. But that same group was there when we do our annual sign-up there.
I haven't seen them, basically.
So let me ask the question, Mr. Fuller. Do you understand what direction we need to go with for the insurance program about evaluating the situation moving forward? Looks like the employees are pleased with the annual coverage that is going through this particular year, but we need to make sure of what Commissioner Jake said about reviewing what we got so we can make a wise decision in December.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I think what we also need to do is keep maybe on a quarterly basis, try to get some type of a meeting with the departments so that we can actually educate the employees so they know what works and how it works, so they get the, and it kind of like practice makes perfect, maybe. But at least they have more of an idea of how the plan works.
Well,
And I know they're pretty much happy to know that they only have to pay $1,250 instead of $4,500 out of pocket.
Okay, may I ask one additional question?
Ms. Martin?
Does our policy that we currently have it's got to be renewed for July 1st? Is that correct?
No. I thought y'all said it went to January.
that's the deductible.
Deductible.
So we got a renewal time that
That's
don't
what I'm
coincide
saying.
with our,
If we change, you're gonna be messed over with 6 more months to go.
No, sir.
No.
Damn.
So we could actually change in July, make it a 12-month, and it wouldn't affect.
That means it picks you up and gives you the carryover if you go back to a fully funded insurance like Blue Cross or whatever.
For doing away with the HSA, that piece of, you can do what you want. Okay. The issue came from the health savings account, the qualified high deductible plan, and the parameters that are set by there. That's, you know, I gotta tell you, I wasn't exactly comfortable when I got a call from the third-party administrator said, and oh, by the way, on the deductible, this is something you need to talk to us about. You know, it's not exactly a pleasant surprise. But, you know, good, bad, or
Believe me,
indifferent.
it wasn't on our end either, I can assure you.
Good, bad, or indifferent, I'm paid to deliver the news, so.
Well, we know we're up against, and we can move forward from here. Mr. Randall has another question.
Am I correct, Elaine? We have nobody under that high deductible, but nobody's participating in
Everybody's got the deductible, nobody has the HSA. When the plan was written, it was under the HSA.
Billy had it.
Billy had it. You can't go back and say, whoops, don't want to do that now. The plan was implemented under those guidelines. We're going to live with it. So that, I mean, I don't,
it. So I guess my next question, again, on my deductible, is there any use in me getting your phone number? I mean, is it gonna change? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I can read pretty well, and can you show me in here where you asked me that question a while ago? About another,
On continuing coverage.
continuing coverage?
no, I can't, but there's more to it than this. So,
Well, I mean, it
That's
looks
a-
like if
that's-
he went in there
that's
the last
something
day of the
plain
year,
true.
he wouldn't have to pay but one.
No.
I mean, I know the year, I understand the date changes, but my Lord, he was in the hospital the 31st. It doesn't matter if he stayed in there a month, he shouldn't have to pay but
At
one.
10 o'clock.
well, as contentious as it may appear, hopefully I can communicate effectively to those folks and say, look at this situation,
What's happened to common sense in the United States?
let's work this out.
Well, I would like to address the board. We've had a constitutional officer made the statement that Mr. Rising has lost credibility. That's not a small statement. I think we need to have a discussion if we are going to stay with Mr. Rising or if we are not. I would like to bring that up at our next meeting.
Very well put.
May I ask you to be expeditious because of this RFP? If you're going to remove me as a broker, you're going to need to do something different on that as well.
Okay.
Just so you're aware.
Elaine, isn't this all we got on this file?
That's the summary plan description, and Elaine should have more in a PDF. Okay.
And this one does say effective date is July the 1st, 2013. That's what it says on the cover page.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that, what's been said tonight. Let's move to the next item.
Let me say one thing else as far as with this and be done, as far as we had kinks at the beginning, but nobody's mentioned how much we've actually saved for the employees, how much we've saved as a whole for the county and all, which is somewhere around $200,000 in premium that we didn't give to an insurance company. And at the same time, if you come in here and you want to start doing something where are you wanting to just ask for more trouble starting the next time? Or do you want to take it as a learning experience, go forward, and
Well, Commissioner Strickler, that's what we're going to try to do, make sure that we don't lose what we got, make sure we make sure everybody is accountable for the policy, and make sure that everybody appreciates the policy. So I think all that information, data needs to come out before us, and it needs to be done. Mr. Randall, what about that?
I mean, like I said a while ago, paid fine, with just a few kinks. You know, I'm not saying that it's a bad policy or anything like that. I'm just concerned with, you know.
What happened to you?
Well, and today's what, 29th? And it happened in December? Should have gotten Elaine to call me. We have one other claim situation. She sent me an email, we got to resolve.
Hey,
And
I
I'm not-
had creditors calling me. Don't tell me who should call who. I had creditors calling me and
Well, you said you talked with somebody from the insurance company.
oh yeah, yeah. And I asked a question when I talked to Donna, and I talked to Athens Healthcare Services. That's the 4 doctors that were turning me into collection aid. And I asked them if I needed to call each doctor, and she said no. So
Give us a follow-up, after you talk to Pat, follow-up on what he's gonna try to help you with.
okay.
Appreciate that. Let's move on to the jail expansion. I'm gonna call on, manager, Mr. John Phillips. We've really been working on this jail expansion for some time now to try to keep the jail, expansion afloat and try to make sure we move forward in the county with taking care of the needs of prisoners rather than having to house them out elsewhere. So I'm going to ask Mr. Phillips to give us an approach that we saw leaning towards looking at.
Okay, be glad to, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we have some funds that are set aside for the jail expansion, but obviously we don't have enough based on the estimates for construction that we have at this point. In order to prevent this project from dying and keep it moving forward, what I would propose is that we utilize some of those funds to go ahead, complete plans, particularly get, as a part of that, the civil site design completed. That would allow us then, over a period of time, to utilize our forces to do some of the site preparation work, hopefully even some of the utility work, so that we're making progress and we have a site that is ready for the jail expansion, for the actual building construction. Also, I would like to see us, with our next round of SPLOST, to include the jail expansion as a part of the SPLOST program. Hopefully we'll be successful in having that SPLOST passed. I think it would be conceivable that we could have the site prepared, that we could have plans ready, really everything ready to put out to get a contractor started very quickly upon approval of the SPLOST. I think this would be a format where we could actually do the needed expansion, have it in a relatively timely manner, and do that without really having a burden upon our budget, upon the taxpayer, and fund the project. I know it's probably not the best scenario. It would be awfully nice if we had the money and we could say we could go ahead and do it. But at the same time, I think it will cost us some funds as far as continuing to house our inmates at some other locations. Of course, we run some risk as far as the cost of construction being higher at that point than it is now. But at the same time, I believe it's a format where we could continue to move forward, not delay the project by a tremendous amount of time, but do it in a way that we could actually fund the project without incurring a lot of additional costs due to interest, closing costs, those type of things. But just an approach that I'd like your consideration. I know I've talked with the sheriff and talked with Gary Smith some about the approach, and they're here tonight, so if you have any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer those for you.
Okay, you've heard from our manager the approach that he recommended that we take towards the jail. Do we have any discussion? Sheriff?
I've been 10 years preparing on what's going to happen. I understand where we're at. I think Mr. Phillips done a fantastic job. We do have between $800,000 and $900,000 in the account. It's for jail construction of our last SPLOST, of the old SPLOST. But, you know, the construction is definitely going up. I know Stevens County, I was told their whole complex is going to cost them $7 million. They waited 2 to 3 years to finish it. It cost them $11 million. So, you're saying that, I mean, I understand, I respect to know where you're at. I'm just, you know, we definitely got to keep digging. We can't back it. We can't forget about it, because there they are, other things that could happen.
Thank you, Sheriff. I think it's unfortunate that we did not have a piece of splash in the present splash.
Sure.
Therefore, it put us in the mud, so to speak. But never too late to start it like Mr. Phillips is talking about, and then ask the citizens if they want to move forward with expanding the jail. I think it's a good approach. Any other comment?
We're gonna have a dollar figure on how much we are going to spend prior to the SPLOST, or is it an open-end fund?
Well, I think what I would propose is, and I've talked with the architect, and I know that he's to the point that he says we could move ahead, we could get a civil engineer on board, go ahead, do the site plan, the utility plan, get everything there. So, and I think it's probably a good idea for us to say, maybe get an approval to go through step 1, 2, or 3, or ever how we want to lay that out. But I would definitely like to see us move forward till we get those plans completed, allow us to take a look at it, see if it is something that we could do with county forces, and expend the funds that we would need to go ahead, get that ready. At some point, I think we need to talk back with the architect, see exactly what we would need, what he would need from us. We've completed one contract with the architect. I guess we need to look at the next contract with the architect as far as finishing up plans, see what kind of expense we'd be talking about there. And then hopefully we could move through that phase as well, so that, like I say, by the time we get funding secured, really we have all the plans, everything approved, everything ready to go, and be ready to go to be able to get somebody to start the work. But I guess I'm looking at it more as sort of a phased approach, that we say, okay, it's going to cost us this much to get to this level. are we all in agreement, we're ready to move there? Then we see where we are financially, and then hopefully we can move to the next level. And like I say, by the time we get to where all of our financing is secured, hopefully we could be, if not totally complete, awfully ready for a contractor to start work.
But we're not gonna spend any more than $800,000.
That's right.
Is what I think Clinton was maybe trying to get.
And hopefully significantly less than that.
Right.
Significantly less, I
Well, I'm
think.
just saying, well, it's kind of like spend as you go,
Exactly.
because with the idea that Jeff and Clint had as far as taking money out of our reserves to pay for it, well, there's a little thing called Gatsby 68 that has to do with retirements that are going to be put on county's balance sheet this year. And when that goes on, it's like if you take money out of your reserve and what we have, it's gonna cause us to lose our rating, a good rating, which means if we borrow money, we're borrowing at a higher rate.
But that's what we said, we're not going to.
Correct.
We're not going to spend, we're
That
hopefully well within that.
That was not a great alternative. It was just better than the alternative we've been put on the table of spending over $1 million in closing cost and interest bled out from this county over a 10 to 15 year period. Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very well thought out plan and methodology that's been proposed. The only question and concern, since we're in the discussion stage that I have, is again, all this is predicated on number one, there being a SPLOST, and number two, that it passing. If we move forward on the conceptual design that has been brought to us, and I will say it is the best plan, and I like it, very feasible, very effective and efficient, and we move forward with the site planning, the utility installation, the further development of the architectural plans, and then either there is not a SPLOST or that the SPLOST does not pass that contains the component for the jail, then we have spent a tremendous amount of money on this one design and concept, which I don't think at that time without SPLOST, looking at our finances both past and present, I don't think that it would be feasible just out of our budget at that time to be able to build the jail in the current architectural composition of the 4 pods, etc. Just a concern, and wanted to, is a thought and a concern.
Well, I think they also told us that basically the current septic system wouldn't actually adhere to the new jail, one of the meeting that we had.
Well, that was
It's
on
capacity.
capacity and
Capacity
full.
wise,
Okay.
wastewater. But I want to, go ahead, Mr.
I'm sorry, and that's a very good point, and that is, if we get to that point, and for whatever reason it does not pass as far as the next SPLOST, then you're right, we would be back to looking for funding for the project. What I would hope is that as we go through these phases, we can take a look and we can get a more definitive cost of construction so that we know exactly what we're up against as far as the building construction. And again, I hope that we can save some of those costs by doing some of the work in-house as far as site prep, and so that we get a better handle on where we are. And I guess I look at it, we're really in no worse situation because we've got a pad prepared. Even if the structure had to go smaller, we could do that. But we're in no worse situation. We're still back to looking for funding.
I
again for
agree,
the
as long as
project.
we're not talking about delving into actual footing construction.
Right,
etc.
I agree.
Okay. Any other comments tonight about this? We don't need to take any action, we're just in discussion, and I appreciate Mr. Fuller putting together a direction there, and I also appreciate all the commissioners and all the people that have contributed and rattled their brains, so to speak, to come up with a way that we can keep this project going. I really appreciate it from the commissioner standpoint. With that, we stand adjourned.